You're on mute.
There we go. Welcome. Thanks for joining in, everyone. This is the Grab a Stack of Rock post-show chat with Harrison and Johnny Metal. Thank you for joining me. Now, just before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out. We have, for reasons of privacy, we won't say the name, but we have a family member. We have a cast member who is currently fighting a health battle. And I just want to say, to you, all the strength. Hang in there. We got your back. Here, grab a stack of rock. Harrison, Johnny, on with the show, my friends. That was fun, eh? The Maiden Japan episode.
Yes, it was.
Good to be back.
We had some great comments. Pete Jones in the house tonight, and he is shouting out, I'm sure Harrison is familiar with, the Summer
I'm actually not familiar with that one. I'll have to check it out after the show. But I do know that the Tokyo show, being a radio broadcast, is far more easily available in this day and age.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that's something we can follow up on at a later time. One thing I did want to follow up on, which was negligence on my part, I showed off the Super 7 Eddie, but what I completely forgot was I actually own the Maiden Japan specific Eddie. So we'll show this off on the show for the very first time.
Nice.
Yeah, so look how they did this with an obi strip, which is just obviously it's just printing, but there's an obi strip imitating a Japanese import CD, which is a very nice bit of attention to detail. There's that chromed sword I was talking about, and it's a different sword. That is more of a samurai sword rather than the rapier or whatever he was wielding. And then on the back, it shows the other figures available in the line, of which I have a complete set. But this is the last figure I have in Super 7's Iron Maiden series. There have been figures since then, but it's just, they're very expensive. I mean, the idea behind these figures, okay? Johnny and I grew up in the era of Star Wars. Hey, Marlon, nice to see you, my friend.
Hey, Marlon.
Thanks for joining. Johnny and I grew up in an era where Star Wars figures of this size and style were on the shelves. So what Super 7 have done is they've taken the 5 points of articulation that Star Wars had and applied it to so many franchises from across the board, including bands like Iron Maiden and Ghost and all kinds of things. But 5 points of articulation: the arms, the legs, the head. That's it. And you can have Eddie do battle with Darth Vader, which I have done. We have had this confrontation before, and I'm sorry, a lightsaber does cut through swords. But anyway, I just wanted to show that off because that is part of the Maiden Japan memorabilia that I own. And I think what Harrison and I are going to do at some point in the future is we're talking about doing a show that's just strictly memorabilia for Iron Maiden. Because, I mean, can you guys think of another band besides Kiss who have marketed themselves to so many things successfully like Iron Maiden has? In an upcoming episode, we'll be talking about the Trooper beer and all kinds of stuff. So I throw it over to you guys. I just want to talk Maiden merchandise for a second. What do you guys have? We'll start with Harrison. Just what do you think rather than have? Because I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what do you think about Maiden and their merch that they have available right now?
I mean, I really like, obviously, shirts, all manner of clothes, sort of like or there might have been at one point, I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, just in general, all of the clothing is like I guess you'd say the first most visible layer of merchandise that a metal fan can have to sort of express their tastes. And I've got a couple myself. I'm not wearing one tonight as it is, but on all the other shows, though you can't see it, I am wearing one, usually the same one because I ran out of different options and I'll need to get some more. But no, I do like the other stuff as well. Like I've got a McFarlane Trooper Eddie that's out of reach, and I've got, I guess you could say, my own self-made merch with the Lego versions. This is a Flight of Icarus Eddie.
That's brilliant.
Flamethrower.
That's brilliant.
I was looking around for Maiden Japan Eddie, but I can't find him.
if I may interrupt a moment, I think at some point we're definitely going to have to do something to spotlight all of your Maiden Lego because it's quite remarkable. And I don't know why you don't post this stuff in the Maiden discussion groups. I think it would be really popular, but that's a whole other thing. Regarding the shirts, I'm wondering if you guys have an opinion because I know you see a lot of negative comments every time Miley Cyrus or a Kardashian wear an Iron Maiden shirt. And I'm just wondering if you guys have an opinion on that particular fashion statement. I throw it to Johnny Metal.
Oh boy, put me on the spot.
Yeah.
There was another term in the 80s that was it wasn't exactly the most endearing of terms that a lot of metalheads would call certain other metalheads, and that was posers.
Poser. Usually spelled P-O-S-E-U-R. Poseur.
Yes, exactly. And to me, when I see a Kardashian or Miley Cyrus or somebody like that wearing a Slayer or something like that, I'm like, really? No, I'm not buying it. Poser. And then there was a lovely song by the band Thrust that said the posers must die. So there you go.
Okay. That was read into that what you will. Hey, Elder is in the house as well.
Elder
Good
Rock.
evening, sir. Good to see you.
And
Good
Ash.
to see you. Anyway, this is just a post-show chat. We're just following up on the show and what's going on with everybody. Harrison, were you watching? Did you get a chance to
I
rewatch
did catch
that
the very
show?
end. Yeah, I usually, because I watch them all before they go live just to give them a once over, make sure they're all good, and then I usually watch them again after they've gone live. So yeah, I get lots of rewatches, but yeah, usually not when they go live, usually after. But I did catch the very end of this one.
This was the first time I kind of experimented with the editing, which we're going to see a lot more of, trust me. But I was really happy with the way that one turned out. And I'll just tell the story real quick, is that one night we were scheduled to do Number of the Beast with another guest. And that'll be next week that you see that episode. But unfortunately, that guest couldn't make it that night. And Harrison were like, what are we going to do? Like, we're just sitting around on a night in January.
Mike, just like, Jex can't make it. And I'm like, well, if you give me 20 minutes, I can listen to Live Plus One.
Right. And that's what we did. We sat down, we listened to Live Plus One, and we did what we did. That's what came out. And I was really happy with that episode. That was a good episode. I enjoyed that very much. if I do say so myself. Oh, man. And Johnny Metal himself joined us tonight.
Yep.
And he was with us for the Iron Maiden self-titled episode.
Yep.
And I think we gave you a shout out in that last episode too.
Yeah, I think so. You're talking about Iron Maiden merch. And I've probably mentioned this to you guys before, but I didn't get to know him, but I know a friend of this guy. And I've mentioned my buddy Paul from Norway. Okay. He's probably seen Iron Maiden about 180 times, right? So, he's seen him a few times. He is friends with a fellow by the name of Rasmus. And Rasmus has an Iron Maiden merch collection that could probably rival John Five's Kiss collection, from what I understand.
Yeah,
he has an absolute immense amount of merchandise. I don't know everything, but it would be like, oh boy, you'd be like a kid in a candy store looking at some of the stuff I'm sure he's got. But yeah, it's pretty. I've seen a few pictures. It's pretty amazing. And Paul's got some great stuff too, posters and obviously tons and tons of shirts. But it's pretty cool to see that kind of stuff.
Well, you know what? Rather than just say we'll get to it at a later date, I'm gonna go grab something Iron Maiden that I have, something random. We're gonna grab it. We're gonna take a look at it. So I have a lot of Maiden here, and here's a good one. This is the McFarlane, but it's the Trooper.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember if we show this off in our Peace of Mind episode that
we did, because I had my more modern McFarlane to contrast.
We don't show it off a lot. We can take a closer look at it today. But these McFarlane, I don't really consider them figures. I consider them like statues because they're not really.
Yeah,
meant
mine's
to be
more of an
posed.
articulated figure. It doesn't have the molded base. And
Right.
ironically, because of the way mine is articulated, you can't pull off that iconic sleeve art pose because the head doesn't go up far enough and all that. And there's like balance issues with the legs. But I see yours doesn't have that problem.
No, it's never going to come out of the packaging at this point. Why bother? But it does kind of duplicate the single art somewhat. And there's the saber. You can see there's an Iron Maiden logo that you kind of put it together and put it on display. There's a base and a flag. And you can really see the detail there. There's holes in the flag. That looks really good. I mean, that is a really nice looking figure. And maybe
that might be the very same Eddie Trooper figure that appears in the History of Iron Maiden DVDs.
Well, we'll be looking at Visions of the Beast for sure. And I don't want to say who we have for a guest for that episode because you never know what can happen between then and now. That's a long way off. But we have some guests lined up for later on that might be interesting. We'll see. Well, we can announce one because we did record it. But for those who don't know, we have a very special episode coming out that's going to be after Peace of Mind, after we've already introduced Nico McBrain to the series. And we're going to do a special drummer sort of compare and contrast episode with Mr. Archie Gamble from Helix. And let me tell you, this was so fun to just watch him talk about drums and music and maybe even some rumor mill stuff. But I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be episode 8. It's going to come after the Peace of Mind episode. And I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. We shall catch up with the comments here. Mr. Pete Jones in the house. Walmart shows a full Made in Japan cover shirt, but buyer beware. Okay. I know what you mean. Yeah. When I said no, when I shook my head no to Made in Japan shirt, I just meant we don't have one. Number of the Beast or Peace of Mind. I don't remember what that is in regards to. I must have misspoken. And we have Roger in the house, and he loves his hero Johnny Metal. Jake in the house,
showing off my can of Trooper beer that I got when I last saw Maiden in 2019.
Right. So regarding Trooper beer, that's something that Archie Gamble also weighs in on. But do you want to talk about it? What do you think about Trooper beer? Archie, I'll spoiler alert, Archie liked it.
Oh, I liked it. I mean, I got, they were selling it at the show. So I thought, I want to try one. And Tom Phillips, he was a classmate of mine in my senior year. Yeah, that becoming Led Zeppelin was really cool. So sorry, but no, I thought this was a pretty good stout beer. I enjoyed it. Trying to remember. It's only a 4.7 alcohol, so it's not like a really knock it out kind of knock you on your feet kind of beer, but it's still a good one. I enjoyed it. I wish people around here would sell it. I would love it if the Anvil carried it. Actually, that would be nice. I would really like that, but they haven't gotten that far yet. So,
well, Marlon wants to know if we like Number of the Beast or Peace of Mind better. I'll answer that question, but before we get off the topic of beverages, I'm a soda pop guy. I don't drink beer. I would really like to try Gene Simmons soda, but you can't get it in Canada. And I can't remember, some other band just announced they're going to be making a soda. I can't remember who it was, but it got me excited because it might be available in Canada. Now, regarding Marlon's question, which album we like better, Peace of Mind or Number of the Beast? Now that is getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, since
if you watch the series further on, you'll find out.
I think I'm gonna
go out being facetious.
I'm gonna answer the question for Marlon though, because he's never watched the show before, so we got to treat him like gold. Yes. So I'm gonna answer that question for you, Marlon, and I'm gonna say for me it's hands down Peace of Mind, for reasons that we will discuss over the next 3 episodes, essentially. We're also doing a Beast over Hammersmith, so that we're gonna be doing a lot of Maiden. Long story short, though, I Peace of Mind's a very, very special album to me. It was my first Maiden studio album, so it has that. And liked that sort of progressive direction that they were starting to go into. You know, we still had some kick-ass Maiden rockers like Sun and Steel, but then we also had the Kwisatz Haderach and Born of Caledon, and He Will Take the Gum Jabbar. You know, so long story short, spoiler alert for the next coming up episodes. I love Peace of Mind. Love it. And if you guys care to weigh in, you go ahead. Harrison will probably keep his cards close to his chest.
Well, since I'm not on either show, I'll give my weigh in. For me, I always felt like after Still Life, Peace of Mind just falls flat. I lose interest after Still Life. So Sun and Steel, Quest for Fire, To Tame a Land, they just kind of didn't interest me. And so by Still Life, I usually turn my cassette off. So, so I would probably say I would go with Number of the Beast, but I can't listen to side 2 anymore because I've just heard it too much, you know. So it's if I never listen to either album for a while, I'm good. But I probably would like Number of the Beast over Peace of Mind.
And I love that we have two opinions. And Harrison, you're going to wait?
I guess I will. I'm just going to say that I probably very slightly prefer Number of the Beast, but the caveat there is that I like so many other Maiden albums a lot more. It's not like I'm trying to decide between my number 1 and my number 2 pick. Both albums sit around the middle of the Iron Maiden ranking for me.
Well, you know, when we do these episodes, we listen to the releases in depth. At least I do. I listened to Power Slave probably 10 times this week as I prepare for our Power Slave recording that we're going to be doing soon. But when I played Number of the Beast over and over and over again, I just loved it. You know, it's not a matter of here's Peace of Mind and here's Number of the Beast. It's like here's Peace of Mind and here's Number of the Beast. You know, these albums are all so close together. And when we get to Power Slave, it's going to be even harder to.
I know you plan to rank them all at the end of the show, but I can't rank them one by one.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible for me. I'll literally have to have 3 tiers of my favorite, the ones I quite really like, and then the ones that I kind of like a bit, but aren't.
No, I'm not committed to that ranking idea. I'm not committed to that at all. I was just thinking in terms of how our buddy Jon Snow tends to milk out a series, and then when he's done the series, he's going to do a ranking at the end. And, you know, it's like, yeah, we can milk it for one more episode. But by the end of this, we may not want to milk it for one more episode. We may not want to.
John and I didn't do that for Accept. So, yeah, right. we were done. So we didn't even bother with a ranking.
Right. So the thing that we're doing, because we learned from the experts, okay? Like these guys here at My Music Corner, they plotted the course. It was the Judas Priest series that got our attention, I think, Harrison and I the most. And we kind of modeled this series after yours. But we learned from your experience with Burning Out that we really need to plan this very carefully so that we have a lot of flexibility. So we just took 2 weeks off because I had COVID. So we took 2 weeks off, and we picked it up last week, a recording with Archie Gamble for the drummer episode. And I know Pete Jones cringed a little bit when I said, you know, drummer comparisons, but it's not like that. Like, it's really not, I hope anyway. When I say compare and contrast, I meant it in terms of like a school assignment. If you're writing an essay, it's all love. It's all love. There's like no critique in that episode as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, long story short is we've been flexible, and we have some other stuff coming up that we're planning to do. Like I said, Beast over Hammersmith, we're planning to do that as a live episode with Harrison and myself. We're hoping to kind of do this gimmick where we do live albums as live episodes, but today was an exception for the reasons I mentioned at the top of the show. What else? What else do we want to say? Well,
I just wanted to give a few sort of addendums to now that we're sending off the Paul Di'Anno era, because there's a few things that I probably should have mentioned in a few of the shows, but didn't know at the time or didn't rediscover. So the first one is I'm just going to talk about they played their singles in the Di'Anno era, or at least the ones that were fairly successful, live on Top of the Pops. In fact, when they played Running Free on Top of the Pops, it was the first time a band had played live on that show since The Who back in the 70s, and they played a shortened version of the song. They also played Women in Uniform live on Top of the Pops at one point too. This is notable because it's one of the very few live performances of this song that they actually did, and because it actually has Adrian Smith on guitar and backing vocals rather than Dennis Stratton, and it ends with a sort of like sudden stop as opposed to the fade out that the studio version does. Now, going way back to the very beginning, Iron Maiden actually got signed over another famous new wave of heavy metal British band, probably the only other one that got major success out of it, which was Def Leppard. Andy Taylor, one of Maiden's management, mentions that EMI had they basically had the budget to do one band only. Well, they could have signed both bands, but they only had enough money to do it properly if they had one band, and they wanted to do it properly because a heavy metal band requires a fair bit of investment in terms of the stage set and all that. So they wanted to do it properly. They could only sign one, and they picked Iron Maiden over Def Leppard, which I'm not enough of a fan of Def Leppard to know where they eventually got signed. Mike, I imagine you will.
Yeah, they were on
Polygram.
Mercury. Yeah, Polygram here, and I think they were Vertigo maybe in the UK. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe Vertigo too.
I seem to remember seeing the Vertigo logo on some UK releases, but yeah, they were Polygram here in Canada.
All right, and so very lastly for this sort of addendums, before they actually got Bruce in the band, they very briefly tried a man by the name of Terry Slessor on vocals. Now, I'm not very familiar with him. I don't know where he's from or what he went on to do, but just a little interesting piece of trivia there that I didn't know in time to mention for our very first show, unfortunately.
I've never heard that before.
Me either.
Now, Jake asked.
It was in one of the official Iron Maiden documentaries that I watched. It just got brought up and then immediately dropped.
Was he included in the family tree?
I don't know.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think
I've
so.
never
I don't
seen that
remember that name.
So I want to address Jake not from State Farm. Very important.
Before we get to that, just about Jake himself, like one thing I've been meaning to ask: where does the "not from State Farm" name come from? Because the implication is that there is a Jake from State Farm.
There is.
I did that. I got to know him as Jake, and it was just a fun name. I was like, Jake, not from State Farm. I was the one that gave it to him. So
Google Jake from State Farm. He's like a spokesman for TV ads for an insurance company.
Yeah, it's an American thing.
It's an American thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have State Farm here in Canada.
Right now, he's with all the Kansas City Chief guys and driving them all nuts. So yeah, that's just
But I do want to address Jake, not from State Farm, because he asked what our favorite Eddie is, and I'm going to show you. This is the first time this has been seen on the show. There's my favorite Eddie. There you go. My favorite Eddie. And why not? Because I am a sci-fi geek. This is the Blade Runner Cyborg Eddie. So why not? Is this
one of them? There was a variant that appeared on one of the single covers.
Now, unlike the other Eddie I showed, this is not a McFarlane. This is IronMaiden.com. On the back it says. Yeah. But anyway, this is a nice figure. And we'll be taking a closer look at this when we do Somewhere in Time with Mr. Peter Kerr from Australia. We'll be doing Somewhere in Time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode. We're coming up close to having to do that. Favorite song? We talking favorite Maiden song? Or you guys talking Saga?
I think they're talking Saga.
We're talking Saga on the side. Okay, so we're going to ignore the Saga discussion. We're going to stick to Maiden here. Anyway, Johnny Metal, I saw you say in the comments you prefer the early Derek Riggs stuff.
I like the early Derek Riggs stuff. I mean really early stuff, like the Women in Uniform and the Sanctuary ones. That's for some reason
the street
Eddie. That's, to me, that's always been my favorite. When you start getting into Number of the Beast and Peace of Mind and all that crazy stuff that they do with him, I don't know. That's where it kind of left me a little bit. But no, I've always been a fan of that really early. Why are the women clinging to this monstrous looking thing? I guess it kind of reminds me of me. Why would anybody want to clean to me, I guess, but same difference. Eddie, I just like that. I always like that version of Eddie. So
Okay. And Harrison, do you want to weigh in?
Oh, it's such a hard choice. I'd have an easier time telling you the Eddies that I don't like. Very small list compared to the ones that I do like.
Yeah, and I think we'll get there when we get to those albums, because I think we're in agreement on a lot.
Well,
of
one of them
stuff.
is actually Peace of Mind. I don't like the Peace of Mind artwork very much.
Come here, sunshine.
But I'd have to pick a symbolic pick. Like Virtual 11, I think, is the one that I named as my favorite Iron Maiden cover art of all time. Second place went to I think the original debut art. But as for my favorite Eddie, I think it would be the one on Raising Hell, the Steve Harris bass Eddie.
I like that Eddie too. Regarding Virtual 11, I was going to say bold choice unless specifically you're referring to the lenticular cover that actually looks three-dimensional and everything.
I just really like the cover art. It's one of my favorite cover arts of all time.
I was going to say that's a bold choice. That's a bold choice. And let's see how that pays out for him.
That's bolder. Let's see how that works out for him. Cotton McKnight. I feel shocked.
We did a show on this. I literally named it on my show show.
Dude, that was like 4 years ago. You're expecting, dude, I'm 52 years old. I'm going to be. I
don't even remember what I did this morning, let alone.
No kidding. Like
I wasn't even watching 4 years ago.
I'm gonna do that thing where I pontificate for a few minutes. Okay, I'm gonna pontificate on my amazing co-host, Mr. Harrison Cobb, because I mentioned this in the comments that you were not there for. I said I don't know how Harrison does it. This is all coming from memory. This is all memory. He's not going off notes. He's not reading notes. He is just going completely by.
Tarot Destroyer has found it.
Usually like
Okay, so you know what? I'm just going to put this comment up while I talk. So Harrison, again, I don't know how you do it. You are, as far as I'm concerned, you are the star of 50 Years of Iron Maiden. I have felt this way for many weeks now as I rewatch a lot of these episodes, and I'm just here gushing. I'm like, oh, I love this song. I love the way it makes me feel, and I love the way the drums sound, and I love the guitar solo, and it's one of my favorite solos. Meanwhile, Harrison's like, now you'll notice that Paul Di'Anno sings it this way this is the only released version where he sings it this way. On all the other ones, he does the different lyrics, and it's like, holy shit, he knows all this stuff off by heart.
Well, it's funny because part of the occasionally I wish that I could talk about the songs in the more of like, oh, they make me feel happy way sort of thing, but I just don't have that the capability, I guess. I'm the very analytical. I'm the Jamie Hyneman and you're the Adam Savage.
Yes, exactly. I'm the mustard and you're the relish, and together we're the hot dog. Johnny Metal being the
and I got to catch up.
I'm not gonna say what Johnny Metal is, but you know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say, I'm being stupid here, but what I'm saying is that this guy right here was his idea to do the series. So, he came up with this idea. Let's do a series like Johnny Metal did with Judas Priest. So why don't I ask Johnny Metal to do it with me? And thank God, Johnny Metal said no, because I'm so happy to be doing this with you, man. And you are the star. I as I watch and as I edit these episodes, you are the star. Aside from the guests, when the guests really shine, you are the star. So
I think we've really got a good matchup with the right guest for the right album so far. It's been great.
Man, have we ever? So, spoiler alert. Next week, Jax Russell, The Number of the Beast. It's his favorite Iron Maiden album. So you can expect that kind of show from Jax. The following episode that we're doing, Peace of Mind with Melissa Nee. I knew she was a major Maiden fan, and I knew she'd seen him about 1,000 times. But what I didn't know was how much she knew, like facts, laying down those facts, schooling us. And I was like, I was coming in prepared. I was going to talk a little bit about some of these movies and so on that the songs are based on Peace of Mind. And Melissa's knee is like, boom, 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 boom. She knows everything about. She's seen all these movies and stuff, Meanwhile, I'm just
Melissa
talking about
also
stuff.
saw the Peace of Mind tour twice, including one very special show that I touch on when I talk about the set list.
Right. And man, like I'm telling you, I'm excited about a lot of these episodes that are coming up. We're recording Power Slave this weekend with another special guest. It's going to be Bicycle Legs, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the table in this series. And speaking of Bicycle Legs, tune into his channel tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Marillion Part 2 list show. We are doing our favorite songs from all the albums from This Strange Engine to An Hour Before It's Dark. And that was a lot of fun to record. So look for that on Bicycle Legs. What is he calling his channel? Bicycle Legs Music Discussion,
Talks
I think?
Music, I believe.
Talk music. I was close. Yeah, so
there's
that's
mail waiting for you.
That's a great. Okay, that's another thing I wanted to do. That's a perfect segue. Harrison made a grandma joke. The first time we did one of these post-show chats with Johnny Metal, we did it partially because I want to talk about my grandma, and I guess we should update everybody on what's going on there. And that's she's still with us. We have family flying in next week for what we expected to be a funeral, but grandmother is still hanging in. She's starting to eat a little bit. She's very weak. She does not want to see visitors. She's always been fussy about her appearance, and she never liked when I visited when her hair wasn't done and everything else. So I have to respect that. And she's too weak to answer the phone. So that's where we are. I want to thank everybody for sharing all their fun grandma stories with me, though. But we're hanging in there. I'm at peace, and I will say, Johnny Metal's been my rock. He's been my Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And in the comments, they keep talking about stuff that I have no idea what they're talking about.
They're talking about the post Kansas band that Kerry Livgren did called AD.
Oh, okay.
And he had done like the first couple of albums. There's one of the albums actually has 2 songs with Ronnie James Dio on vocals.
Oh.
And the interesting thing is those are faith-based albums. So Dio singing on something faith-based was quite interesting, actually.
That is interesting.
I think one of the songs is called Mask of the Great Deceiver, and I forget the other name of the song. Marlon might know it right off the top of his head, but I do remember one of the songs was called Mask of the Great Deceiver that Dio actually sung on. It was, I forget the timeline when all that happened, but yes, that's what they're all talking about. So,
but now that you mentioned Dio, there is a Maiden connection with that, because at some point in the early 2000s, Bruce Dickinson and Nico McBrain performed a few songs with Ronnie himself in Amsterdam, I think. I'm not 100% sure where it was, but I know there's recordings of Rainbow in the Dark and Man on the Silver Mountain with Bruce and Nico playing along with Ronnie and the rest of the band.
Maybe another idea for the series as we go along might be to do, spin-offs, side projects, one-offs, odds and sods like that. I don't know. The sky is the limit. But again, we must learn from the example of Johnny Metal that you don't want to burn out on a band that you love.
If you do that kind of stuff, you'll be talking Maiden until the end of 2027. So
right. And it's funny because people keep coming to me with show ideas, and it's like, man, when am I going to get a chance to do a show like that? I don't know. But we are planning to take the odd break every once in a while. We already have one show pre-recorded that's just sort of a miscellaneous, old-fashioned grab a stack of rock. And we have ideas for other things. I'm getting close to winding it up, though, because these usually run about half an hour worth of chat. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I can't believe the amount of people that have tuned in for the silly little post-show chat. And that's all it is. We're just... Oh, I hear the phone ringing.
It's just a fun hangout time.
It's just a fun hangout. I'm just going to show that Made in Japan Eddie one more time. But there it is. That is the Eddie that goes with this episode. And again, this is Super 7. These are expensive, though, and I stopped collecting them for that reason. They're not worth what you're paying. Considering back in the 80s, you're paying like, what, $4 for... You can really hear someone's trying to get a hold of us. So I better get going.
Somebody loves you, Mike.
As you know, we always like to go out on a song, and just because I want to hear this song again, we're going to play God's on the Radio by Max the Axe. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's a long weekend in Canada, and we'll see you next week for Number of the Beast. Peace out.
Fuck off.